again, you magnificent Godot people. In this video, we're going to get started on our actual food fight. We spent time planning it, we've looked at the assets. Let's set up a play space. Now, our play space, or level, is going to need a few things. We need a floor. We're going to be using a lot of physics in our game, and that's going to include gravity. And if we don't have a floor, that's going to be really annoying. We also need a camera and an environment. Now, if this was a 2D game and we didn't put a camera in, Godot would just give us a default view. But in a 3D game, that won't happen. And while we're setting up a camera, we might as well set up the environment. We also need to put some lighting in, and if we're doing that, we need something to light. So, with all that said, let's hop on over into Godot. Alright, I'm going to make a brand new 3D scene, and let's call this level template. Or we could just call it level if we want, but we might want to inherit a bunch of different levels. You might want to make a game with more and more robots and more levels. Let's give ourselves that option. Okay, under models, under architecture, we have these lovely Kenny meshes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this floor full mesh and just drag it in here. Let's put it at 0, 0, 0. And you'll notice that the corner is in 0, 0, 0. Now, this can be really useful in a lot of circumstances, but less so in Godot. It's actually going to cause us problems a little bit later in this video, but I'm going to show you how, if you get an asset like this, with the origin is in the center, how to fix that and why that matters. For now, though, let's rename this to floor, and let's make it bigger. Let's make it 15 on the X and Z, not on the Y, because that'll make it 15 high, and that's looking pretty good. However, I want it kind of in the center, so let's just, you know what, I should put this on the snap, shouldn't I? Doop, doop, doop. About there, so that's, what, minus 42? So 42 by minus 42. Is that centered? I actually don't think it is it? No. How do you feel about 36? 36 looks much better. 36 by minus 36, and that is our floor. Now, at the moment, this is a mesh. Anything that stands on this isn't actually going to stand on it, it's going to go through it. So we need to make this into a static body. Easy way of doing it, well, we already have a mesh, and it's good to go. We just go to mesh, and we can go create convex static body. Why convex? It's a very, very simple shape. You remember when we were doing QD Kickabout, we talked about the difference between trimesh and convex generated collisions. This is just a rectangle or a cuboid. Cuboid, I think is the right word. So here is our collision shape, and it's good to go. Okay, we need a camera. If I press play, well, first let's save this scene. I'm actually not going to use this scene structure that we had before. I'm going to make a new folder called level and call it level template and just drop that in there. Okay, so let's press play and it'll say we don't have a main scene. Let's just use level template, and we can't see anything. We have to have a camera. So back up to the root node, and we're adding a camera. And let's see, we want it 3 meters high, so higher than a human. And I'm just going to move it back. And I'm going to make it current and press play. Okay, we have a camera. I didn't move it back, I moved it to the side. Let's move it back and back into the center. There we go. So now if I press play, okay, looking better. While we're here, and we did look at this before, we could take our default environment and drag it into the camera, and now any changes we make to the default environment will change this camera. Let's take a quick look. We've got the ambient light. It's getting all of its lighting from the sky. What do I mean by that? The ambient light proper is black. That means it's not generating any. The sky contribution is full. So that means whatever color the sky is what we'll see. The sky is blue. Look what happens if I go back up to my background, click on procedural sky, click on the sky, and change the top color to purple or pink, and the bottom color to a sort of lavender, right? It's got this horrible 1980s neon thing. I'm not a big fan of that aesthetic. It's even hard to say. So what we can do is we can either remove the sky completely, or we can go to our, let's come out of background, our ambient, we can turn the sky contribution off and make the ambient color white, for example, right? That's going to give us this very shiny texture. The asset was designed to look very plasticky, so that's why it's looking shiny. And of course we could put on ambient occlusion, which won't do anything right now. We could put on reflection, which won't do anything right now. Lots of options we could do. We can play with those later. Okay. With all that said, we're going to be playing with physics. There's a lot of physics in our game, so let's add in some furniture. I'm going to make a brand new container node. So let's just make a brand new node. I'm not going to make this a spatial node, just a basic node, because if I drag this around, I don't want it to move all the furniture. And let's call it furniture. If we look under models and we look under furniture, we've got all this stuff. I'm going to take a corner desk and I'm going to place it right here and make sure it's a child of furniture. And obviously we're not going to see it there, so I'm going to take my corner desk, which is a child of furniture, and move it over here. Now, look where the origin is. This is going to come back to haunt us. Now, it's a little difficult to see this right now because the desk is the same color as the floor, but we can fix that. And the easiest way to fix that is to add some actual lighting. So let's go back to the top here. I'm going to add another node, call this lighting, in case we want to add lots of fancy lights. And let's make a directional light. And let's make sure that this light has shadow so that we can actually get something worth looking at. I'm going to move it up and back to about here. And let's rotate it so that we can actually see what we're doing. I'm going to put this on local mode. So any rotations I do are based on where the camera is the light is facing. So I think something like that, and just move it up in non-local mode. We should now have some shadow. Okay, so right now, this is a mesh. It doesn't have any kind of rigid body on it, right? It's just floating there. So I've got a challenge for you. I would like you to create 1 or 2 rigid bodies using the furniture meshes. Now, you could drag them in first, move them around, or you could do what you want. Now, you're going to get weird behavior from this furniture. Don't panic. Just know that after we pause, I'm going to show you this weird behavior and how to fix it. But first, try bringing a couple of these in. So pause the video, give that a shot, and when you come back, I'll show you my solution. And welcome back. Okay. So weird things we're going to get. Well, first off, let's turn this into a rigid body. So I'm going to go back up to my furniture. I'm going to make a new rigid body, and I'm going to drop the desk into it. Okay, so here's my desk. Here's my rigid body. Now, first thing we notice, my rigid body is over here. The mesh is over here. So it's going to transform and move everything into 0. I want it to have the transform of the rigid body, not the mesh. So now when I move it and rotate it and so on, it should look like this. I'm just going to move it up a bit. Great. It also needs collision. So I'm going to go to mesh. I'm going to create tri-mesh collision sibling. This is a more complex thing, and I do want to follow the details. We're going to be throwing projectiles. We're going to have a player. So I want it possible for the food to go onto the desk and look really good. Okay. Now, I've been hinting that something's going to go wrong. I fast-forwarded a bit to find a good way of showing this as an example. Here's my rigid body, and here's the mesh and the collision shape. Now, let's see what happens when I press play. Boop, bonk, possessed desk. Why? What's happening here? Well, it's to do with the difference between the collision and the origin. You see, if we take a look at our desk, we can see it has its mass, its weight. It's a very, very light desk right now, and a bunch of other things. But the collision shape is here, and the origin is here. What does that mean? Well, the origin is the position of the node. So if I look once again, this is where the rigid body, which I'm going to rename desk, this is where the desk is. As far as God is concerned, this is the position of the desk. This is where all physics calculations will be happening. This means, if that's where the physics is calculated from, it's effectively the center of gravity. So, when this desk drops very slightly, it's then going to say, okay, where am I? Well, I'm being pushed from this side, so just rotate and flip until I'm no longer being pushed. And that's what we're seeing. So what we need to do is to move the mesh and the collision shape. I'm kind of eyeballing this right now. So about here, I'd say. That's actually not bad, is it? Probably one more over. To where I expect the center of gravity to be, and you know what? It could probably go up one. There we go. Let's just go like so, and then move the entire desk up. So here's my center of gravity, and now when I press play, my desk behaves like I expect it to. I'm just going to move it to the side a bit. Press play, and that's how I expect the desk to move. I can make this a bit heavier. The weight should probably be something closer to 270. Bonk, we have a desk. Okay, so It's a little fiddly, and when you've got assets with the origins in the wrong place, it can really mess with your physics. So it's important to know meshes with the origin where you don't expect the physics to go from, you're going to have to manually change them. Okay, so with that done, in this video, we've set up a basic play space for us to build Food Fight in, and we've looked at how to fix the center of gravity problems in a rigid body. We're going to see a few of these, so with that technique, we can now make the assets work for what we need them to do in the game. Terrible grammar, but I hope you know what I mean. Meanwhile, excellent work, and I'll see you in the next video.